Said that he's 85, and in 2018, this is from Wikipedia, he uses hearing aids. He stands for 6 hours at a time at an easel. He's got a prescription for cannabis for medical purposes. And every morning he does a 30-minute swim. So I'm with him on that one. He's quite an impressive character, whichever way you look at him, isn't he? This is one of his most famous earlier paintings when he moved to Los Angeles. He said, instinctively, I knew I was going to like it, talking about LA. And as I flew over San Bernardino and saw the swimming pools and the houses and everything and the sun, I was more thrilled than I've ever been in arriving in any city. So this one was, he did this one portrait of an artist with 2 figures in it. And then I think this next one as well comes on. And this is The Bigger Splash. Again, a very famous painting, 1967. In a March 2009 interview for the Tate, he said, somebody asked him, who jumped into the pool? Which is a fair enough question, I suppose. Hockney answered, I don't know, actually. It was done from a photograph of a splash that I hadn't taken. But that's what it's commenting on, the stillness of an image. Most of the painting was spent on the splash, and the splash lasts 2 seconds, and the building is permanently there. That's what it's about, actually. You have to look at it, the details. So there you go. That's the interpretation of it. But that kind of imagery of blue skies, blue pools, and swimming pools is kind of iconic, isn't it, of his period in America. He was always a bit of a snappy dresser as well, wasn't he? And had quite a nutty line in glasses.
Yeah.
I remember one where he gave an interview and he was in some glasses that actually had it said zoom on top of it, with you could see through the 2 O's of the zoom, and the rest of it was in the zoom. I couldn't find it when I was looking for it. This is one of his very early paintings, which is We Two Boys Together Clinging, 1961. It was completed towards the end of his second year at the Royal College of Art, at the time when homosexuality was still illegal in England. The painting derives its imagery from a poem of the same title by the 19th century American writer Walt Whitman.
That was in the Whitworth a few years back, when they had some Hogarths and Hockneys together.
Oh, right. I didn't see that. It's very unlike a lot of his later stuff, isn't it? I think it seems more like, I don't know, I suppose, is it pop art? Something like that. 2 lines of the poem have been scribbled on the right-hand side to offer a commentary on the men's activities. The painting also references a newspaper clipping detailing a climbing accident. 2 boys cling to a cliff at night, which Hockney interpreted as an allusion to his idol, Cliff Richard. 2 boys hanging together on a cliff. The 2 protagonists in this paintings are seen exchanging a passionate embrace and kissing in front of a lavatory wall covered in graffiti. So, there's more to it than meets the eye with that one. To me, it looked like two lollipops, actually, but there you go. I mean, he's done some enormous paintings. This one of the bigger Grand Canyon, 1998, was artists have been very reluctant to paint the Grand Canyon because it's on such a scale and you don't know how to do it. And he said he's never been anywhere like that anywhere. You can stand on the edge of a cliff and see this huge distance, this huge canyon before you. So this was his attempt at it, and all those you can see as separate panels, which are brought together, and that it's in the this is how it's going to look in the immersive experience. And not only do the reason he did this is because projector technology has developed so much that it can give absolutely true likenesses of paintings, and it also can animate it to show how he painted it, so the different parts of it will come on the screen at different times. Which he's always been really keen on new technology and using stuff, and he's not a snob about having to use paint in oils or acrylic or whatever all the time. And I think it's it's just absolutely remarkable. And anybody know where this is?
Yorkshire.
It's in the Yorkshire Wolds,
That's right. It's
part of his set of wold paintings.
yes, he did a whole series of them. It's Garraby Hill, Yorkshire en plein air. You know, painting he painted from the outside. In the 90s, Hockney started to return to Yorkshire, usually once every 3 months, mainly to visit his mother, who died in 1999. Until 1997, he rarely stayed for more than 2 weeks at a time. Then when his friend Jonathan Silver was terminally ill, encouraged him to start painting the local surroundings. He did it at first with paintings on memory, then some based from his childhood. And then he completed the painting of this Yorkshire landscape, Garraby Hill. So he returned to Yorkshire for longer and longer stays, and by 2003 was painting it out in the country. There were some, I haven't got them down, but lovely ones of woodland, I remember. That they're just sensational, aren't they? He set up residence and studio in a converted bed and breakfast in Bridlington. And the oil paintings he produced after 2005 were influenced by a series called Midsummer East Yorkshire from 2003 to 2004. And then he again created these massive paintings by multiplying smaller canvases and putting them side by side. He used his iPhone and then an iPad application, and often used to send copies of these to his friends. I bet they kept those. Well, they'd be daft not to, wouldn't they? And he visited he visited the Yosemite National Park in 2011 to draw its landscape on his iPad. Now this is one I wasn't aware of, actually. And this is the Queen's Window, which depicts the Yorkshire countryside in spring. There he is at the opening of it. And again, it's lovely, isn't it? I imagine it's just such lovely bright colours. It features a hawthorn blossom scene, which is set in Yorkshire. So I think that's a really nice one.
But where is that, Bernard?
That's in Westminster Abbey.
All right.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they made a big deal of it. It was a big opening of it, but I somehow passed me by that in 2000.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that one was worth pointing out. But he just seems to be able to turn his hand to anything, doesn't he? He's remarkably adept. I mean, he's done all sorts in his life. Yeah, well, and it was commissioned by the Westminster Abbey from him for
Gorgeous.
his birthday or something. But there you go. Something.
It's a leaded window, though, isn't it?
Yeah, leaded window. Yeah. This is from Bigger Trees Near Water, and it's also subtitled Peinture en plein air collage post-photographique. It's measures 180 inches by 480 inches. I don't know why they do it. I can't really visualize that, but it sounds pretty big. You can convert it to feet. And it depicts a coppice near Water, Pocklington in the East Riding. And it was, at the time anyway, the largest painting he'd completed. But again, you can see the lines of all the various different parts of it that actually compose it. I'm not sure where it is now. So what stimulated, again, about the project was these, as I said, cutting advances in projectors. And you could get several projectors. 28 are going to be at the exhibition, 28 projectors, synchronized to create these enormous screens. So it's really going to be quite something. Anyway, his stay at Bridlington was caught short because in March 2013, one of his assistants, 23-year-old Dominic Elliott, died as a result of drinking drain cleaner at his Bridlington studio. He'd also earlier drunk alcohol and taken cocaine, ecstasy and temazepam. He was also, apparently, this guy, a rugby player for Bridlington Rugby Club. It was reported that Hockney's pater drove Elliot to the Scarborough General Hospital, where he later died, though the inquest returned a verdict of death by misadventure, and Hockney was never implicated in any way with what happened. But you can imagine him, it turned him off the place he was living in, which he immediately left and sold, and moved to Normandy. And this is the series of paintings that he bought a house there after viewing it for 15 minutes, apparently. Typical way. And hey, he must be rich enough. I mean, his one of his later paintings is now the most expensive one ever made by a living artist, and it was sold for £90 million in 2019. So he can't be short of a bob or two.
Golden Crocs, yeah.
He's never a snob, is he? He's never a snob, you can give him that. And these were the ones he painted there. That in the middle of a pandemic, of course. He did it on his iPad and created 216 of these. Just have a look at some of them. I think they're lovely. I really like them.
I've got the book.
Full of them all.
Yes.
That's really good, isn't it? Of a Normandy house, which is
classic.
Must bring back memories for you, Jackie.
Yeah, it does. Yes, yes, very much.
That's a bit more of sort of, it's a bit Van Gogh-y, is it? Do you think? Or is
That's gorgeous.
The colours of the trees at the front just somehow get the nightness of it, don't they? Fantastic. Again, very formalised Normandy garden. I love that one of the rain. when people say it's raining, rods. It's like that, isn't it? It's definitely
I bet he had fun doing that. Yeah. All those little lines on his iPad.
There's another one of that. And there's another one of a Normandy house, which again looks fabulous, doesn't it? Maybe it's of his. I don't know. And as he says, I've smoked for more than 60 years, and he's moving to France, able to smoke and eat in a restaurant at the same time. I'll stop the share there. Ali Smith has done a reflection on spring and Hockney, and I thought as we're hopefully moving towards spring, I thought I'd just read out a little bit of it. Spring is the word that replaced the old English word for this time of year, lengthen, a word which signalled the lengthening of daylight and gave us the word Lent. The word spring leaps right out of itself like a pent-up water from a suddenly opened source. Its bitter rain, sweet rain, its fertility is tough, all opposites and tough to bear, cold heat, old trees splitting into new leaf. You know it for the first time again every year in the shock of the rare mild day that spring sends ahead of itself in January, perhaps we'll be due one of those soon, and then again on that first February evening when you catch the scent, the differences in the air. Maybe spring's the real new year, not January the 1st at all. It's interesting, Anita just went out into the garden yesterday and picked some snowdrops and other little bits to make and it's just lovely having fresh new growth in the house, just as a reminder of how beautiful it is. Anyway, you can sense it every time Hockney makes visible the unexpected shock of colour in the dark of a body of bare trees. You can see it every time he catches the moments of its merry falling over itself, the swing of a branch loaded with not snow, spring like the hinge on the seasonal door. Last little bit of this. She doth carry June in her eyes, in her art January, Thomas Carew. In spring for the first time all over again, we know that things can change. Spring's always radical, stirring dull roots with spring rain. T.S. Eliot. Always about the force that through the green fuse drives the flower. Dylan Thomas. And that's another thing about the force of spring. It's full-on poetry. A light exists in spring, not present on the year, at any other period. That's Emily Dixon, whose ears open in this poem to the possibility of a voice or whole new consciousness. For a moment in the things and places we mundanely deceive ourselves are languageless. It almost speaks to me, she says, of the specific light spring throws on things, the specific language of spring. Well, I thought that was a nice optimistic start to spring. So that's my short take after 2 hours before this, pulling it together.
Thank you.
It was really interesting. You know, more please.
Well, you can just look at
When is it on, Bernard, this exhibition?
beginning of February. It's at least it's near a station, so if you wanted to go there, it wouldn't be too difficult to get to. And it's in North London, so
You need a mortgage for the train.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the few things I think I'd like to go and see. I mean,
I'd like-
by and large, I'm quite happy with life on Zoom. It means you don't have to meet people face to face all the time.
I suspect that eventually it'll turn up at the Lowry, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to go. If they can do it there, I'm sure they can do it elsewhere as well.
I mean, they did the Van Gogh and Banksy and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, so that'd be definitely something to look forward to. But I was just thinking about Zoom the other day. One of the great things about our Zoom group is, and I was thinking about, because we meet with friends of ours regularly for meals, and in that there's a real, I shouldn't say this, there's a real imbalance of who speaks all the time. And some people speak very rarely and others speak a lot. And it's not always because it wants to be like that. It's just that some people are better at pushing in, like me. But I thought, and it still happens in Zoom, but we are always aware of the other people who are in the Zoom room, and we usually ask them because we want to know what they're up to and how they're feeling. So I just think Zoom in some ways has got advantages over face-to-face meetings. But there you go, just a reflection on Zoom in spring by Beeley.
And there's a handy toilet close by.
And if you get fed up for a bit, you can always say, "Sorry, I'll be back in a minute."
Yeah.
You can stick your joint in the oven. That's what I've just done.
Or smoke it.
Or smoke it, if it's David Hockney.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh,
I've got a poem about spring. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, go
oh
on.
yes.
Fairly short.
It's one of yours.
Yeah.
Okay, go on. World premiere.
No, I think you've heard it before, actually. On the pages of a thesaurus, the word spring can mean so much. A verb, a noun, an adjective, ideas and thoughts and such. To be resilient or elastic, to issue with force and speed, to stretch out to extended height, much growth from a single seed. A time or season of development, a source of supply like water, an act of leaping upwards, from loins, a son, a daughter. We wait all through the winter for spring to finally appear. T-shirts still neatly folded away, still wearing winter gear. Should we put out bedding plants, or will they all be lost by the foxy reappearance of that sneaky old Jack Frost? Each day I place some peanuts inside the tall bird feeder. Each day the little squirrel nicks them, the greedy little bleeder. The season comes in fits and starts, birds and blossom make their show. Then the wind drips through the branches just to keep us on our toes. But the trees are suddenly covered in a million shades of green. Shoots miraculously appear from nowhere, frogs and toads again on the scene. Despite its many setbacks, false alarms and fake arrival, it is my favourite season, still signaling life's survival. There you go.
That's a great.
Really good, isn't it?
That was excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. From
Is
your
that what she
garden.
picked yesterday? That what she brought in yesterday?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
nice.
that's-
Isn't it?
Oh, that's nice.
I like little miniature things like this. I've always liked very small things, like little miniature paintings, little miniature books. You know, those tiny books you used to get.
Oh, yes.
I think the gremlins attacking me now.
Yes.
I just don't know how it goes from person to person. That's the weird
It
thing.
only seems to affect me and oh, bugger off.
You and Derek. Yeah.
Sorry.
That was very honest. That was good. Bugger off.
I think you must be the chosen ones.
Mm.
Yeah, or something.
Oh, yes.
Aliens are trying to communicate with you.
Phone home, phone home.
Yeah.
We used to make we used to have little bottles that we put aromatic. I think that one must have been Friar's balsam, and they had a little glass tube, and the patients would breathe it in on the chest wards. When, oh yeah, I'm trying to remember what they were called.
Anyway,
And
it's
you
last
can
minute.
buy them online. They're like little pots with a. Sorry,
Is it eucalyptus that makes it
it
smell?
wasn't eucalyptus. I think it was.